When Nora Whitaker looked at me across the restaurant table and said, "My dad wants to meet you," I nearly dropped my fork. We had been seeing each other for 3 months, long enough for me to know how she liked her coffee, and short enough that the word "dad" still felt like a locked door. She said it softly, almost carefully, as if she had already imagined every way I might run from it. "Is that good?" I asked. "Or should I start writing my apology now?" Nora smiled, but it did not reach her eyes. "He asked about you by name. Caleb." That was the first strange part. Her father had never met me. The second strange part was the way her fingers tightened around her water glass when she said my name, like it had weight I did not understand. "Before I tell you what happened at that dinner, tell me this. If someone you cared about asked you to face a part of your past you had buried for years, would you go? Like this story, if you believe love sometimes begins where comfort ends, subscribe and comment whether you would meet the father or walk away." I should have asked more questions. I should have noticed that Nora, who could hold pressure like a nurse holds a pulse, was nervous in a way I had never seen. But I was 36 years old, stubborn, and still convinced that life announced its disasters before they arrived. It does not. It waits until you are wearing your good shirt, standing on a stranger's porch, holding grocery store flowers because you did not know what else to bring. Nora's father lived in a narrow brick house on the east side of Asheville, one of those older places with a deep porch, blue shutters, and a maple tree that had grown up close enough to shade the front windows. The yard was neat without being fancy. The porch rail had fresh paint. A wind chime made of old keys moved in the warm April air. I parked behind Nora's silver Subaru, cut the engine, and sat there longer than I meant to. My hands smelled faintly of cedar and varnish from the cabinet job I had finished that afternoon. Most men wore cologne to meet a woman's father. I smelled like sawdust and work. Nora came down the porch steps before I could talk myself into leaving. She wore jeans, a cream sweater, and her hair pinned back in the loose way she used after a long shift. She looked beautiful, but not dressed up. That made me more nervous. "You came," she said. "You sound surprised. I was prepared for you to text me from Tennessee. I considered South Carolina, less predictable." This time her smile was real, but it disappeared too quickly. She took the flowers from me, looked at the yellow tulips, and pressed them lightly to her chest. "He likes yellow," she said. "Good. I was aiming for non-threatening." "Caleb." Her voice changed. She glanced toward the front windows. "There's something I need to say before we go in." My stomach tightened. "He owns a gun?" "He owns 3 fishing rods and 1 bad knee. That's worse. Fishermen ask personal questions." She did not laugh. She stepped closer, close enough that I could see the faint tiredness under her eyes. "My dad was a firefighter for 31 years, she said. "Retired battalion chief. He doesn't always come across warm at first. I can handle not warm." "I know you can." She looked down at the tulips. "Just don't decide too quickly that you understand what this dinner is." That sentence followed me up the porch steps. The door opened before she touched the bell. The man standing there was tall, even with his shoulders slightly bent by age. He had white hair cut close, a square jaw, and eyes that looked like they had spent a lifetime judging smoke, weather, people, and danger in the same quick glance. "Dad," Nora said, "this is Caleb Hart." The man's face changed. Not much. Not enough for anyone else to notice, maybe. But I spent my life restoring old wood, reading tiny shifts in grain and pressure. His expression tightened around my last name. "Mr. Whitaker," I said, holding out my hand. "It's good to meet you." He looked at my hand before he took it. His grip was firm, dry, and careful. "Frank," he said. "Call me Frank." Then he did something that made the hair rise on the back of my neck. He looked not at my face, but at the small scar across my left eyebrow, the one I got when I was 12 and threw a wrench at my father's truck after his funeral. Nora noticed too. Her eyes moved between us. Frank stepped back. "Come in." Inside, the house smelled like lemon oil, roast chicken, and coffee. The walls were covered in framed photographs. Nora as a little girl in a soccer uniform, Nora in nursing scrubs, Nora and her father at a lake, both holding the same fish and pretending it was bigger than it was. There were firefighter pictures, too. Group shots in front of engines, helmets, a faded newspaper clipping, a shadow box with medals and an old brass badge. I tried not to look too long at any of it. My own father had been a firefighter. Michael Hart. Engine 7. He died when I was 12 in a warehouse fire on the south edge of town. That was the official sentence, the kind people used because it was clean, and did not include the sound my mother made when two men in dress uniforms came to our door. After he died, I learned to hate firehouses. I hated the smell of smoke on coats. I hated parades with ladder trucks and children waving. I hated strangers calling him a hero, because hero was what people said when they got to keep breathing after someone else did not. And now I was standing in a retired fire chief's living room, trying to date his daughter. Nora touched my arm. "You okay?" "Yeah," I said. "Just looking." Frank had gone quiet. He watched me the way people watch a storm line on the horizon. Dinner started politely enough. Roast chicken, potatoes, green beans with almonds. Frank asked about my work, and I told him I ran a small restoration shop with 2 employees, rebuilding cabinets, staircases, porches, and the kind of old things people were too impatient to save. Nora said, "He makes ugly houses feel forgiven?" I looked at her. That is not on my business card. It should be. Frank studied us over his coffee mug. "How did you two meet?" "At the free clinic," Nora said. The children's wing had cabinets from 1972 that stuck every time anyone needed gauze. "I donated the labor," I said. "You donated 3 weekends," Nora corrected, "and refused free lunch twice before I threatened to put your name on a volunteer plaque. I have a fear of plaques." Frank's mouth moved, almost a smile. Reasonable fear. For a few minutes, I thought maybe I had imagined the tension. Then Frank asked, "Your father was Michael Hart?" The room went still. Nora's fork stopped halfway to her plate. "Dad." "It's all right," I said, although it was not. "Yes. He was." Frank set his mug down with both hands. "Engine 7, I nodded. "Good man," he said. I had heard that sentence from too many people who had not known what to do with my grief. Something old and defensive rose in me. "You knew him?" Frank looked at Nora, then back at me. "I did." Nora sat straighter. "You never told me that." "There are things I should have told you a long time ago," he said. "That was when I knew this dinner was not about whether I was good enough for his daughter." Frank stood slowly. "Would you come with me, Caleb? Just for a minute?" Nora reached for my hand under the table. Her fingers were warm. She did not hold on. She only touched me, giving me the choice. I followed Frank down a short hallway to a small room that had probably been a den before retirement turned it into a museum. There were shelves of binders, boxes labeled by year, old photographs, a wooden model of a fire engine, and a locked metal cabinet in the corner. Frank took a key from a hook behind the door. I asked Nora to bring you because I needed to know if you were the same Hart, he said. The same Hart as what? He opened the cabinet and removed a flat blue folder. His hands shook a little. Not with weakness, with restraint. Before I show you this, I need you to understand one thing. Nora didn't know. She still doesn't know all of it. All of what? Frank handed me the folder. Inside was a newspaper clipping from August 12th, 2002. The headline was old and familiar enough to make my throat close. Local firefighter dies in mill fire rescue. Under it was my father's face. You never forget the photograph a town chooses to remember a dead man by. My father in dress blues, smiling like he had been caught trying not to smile. I had seen that clipping once, folded in my mother's Bible. I had never touched it again. Under the clipping was another photograph. A little girl, maybe 8 years old, sitting on the back step of an ambulance with a blanket around her shoulders, soot on her cheek, and a firefighter's oxygen mask too big for her face. Even before my mind accepted it, my heart knew. The girl was Nora. I looked up. Frank's eyes were wet now, though his voice stayed steady. Your father saved my daughter's life, he said. And then he went back in for me. The floor seemed to tilt beneath my shoes. I could hear Nora laughing in the kitchen at something on the radio. I could smell roast chicken cooling on the table. I could see my father's name in black ink and the face of the woman I was falling in love with. Small and covered in smoke. No, I said, because sometimes the first word out of a wounded man is not truth. It is defense. Frank nodded once. Yes. I looked at the photograph again. The little girl's hands were curled around the blanket. Her eyes were huge, stunned, alive. My mother said he died in a warehouse fire. He did. Old textile mill. Part of it had been converted illegally into storage and office space. There was an after-school program using the lower rooms, while renovations were supposed to be happening. Your father found Nora in a supply closet after the ceiling came down near the exit. I could not make the facts fit with my memories. I had spent years picturing my father disappearing into a building for strangers. Noble, distant, clean. I had never known that one of those strangers would grow up to touch my arm across a dinner table. Why are you telling me now? I asked. Frank breathed out slowly. Because I am having surgery next month. Because I have put this off for 24 years. Because my daughter brought home the son of the man I owe everything to. And if I kept silent, I would be a coward. The word coward landed harder than I expected. My father had never raised me to admire brave men. He raised me to notice useful ones. Fix the hinge. Check the tire pressure. Stand where you said you would stand. After he died, I decided brave was just another word for leaving. What happened? I asked. Frank closed his eyes for a moment. Your father carried Nora out first. I was inside looking for another child we thought was missing. There wasn't another child. Bad count, bad information. When the south wall shifted, your father saw it before I did. He shoved me through a service door and went down under the beam. I stared at him. I tried to go back, Frank said. They held me. I fought them. I broke a man's nose trying to get loose. But the roof went before anyone could reach him. My hands were cold. For years, anger had kept my father alive in a way love could not. Anger had given him a shape. He chose the job over us. He chose strangers over home. He chose smoke over his son. Now Frank was handing me a new shape, and I did not know where to put it. What does Nora know? I asked. That she was rescued in a fire. That a firefighter died that day. I never told her his name. Why not? Frank looked towards the hallway. Because she was 8. Then because she was fragile after nightmares. Then because the longer I waited, the more it felt like I had built our life on a silence. His honesty did not make me less angry. It only made the anger more complicated. You asked to meet me so you could confess? I asked to meet you because I wanted to look you in the eye, and because there is something your father left that belongs to you. He removed a small envelope from the folder. My name was written across it in handwriting I had not seen since childhood. Caleb. My knees nearly gave. That's impossible, I said. He carried it in his turnout coat. We found it later with his personal effects. Your mother never wanted to see me. I tried. More than once. She told the department liaison she wanted nothing from the scene except his wedding ring and helmet. The envelope stayed in evidence, then in department archives. When I retired, I requested it. I told myself I would find you. But you didn't. No, he said. I didn't. That was the first thing he said that made me believe him completely. Not because it was noble, but because it was ugly. I took the envelope, but I did not open it. Behind us, a floorboard creaked. Nora stood in the doorway. She had heard enough. Maybe all of it. Her face had lost color, and the tulips I had brought her were in her hand, forgotten and trembling. Dad, she whispered. What did you do? Frank's shoulders folded. Nora. She looked at the photograph on the desk. Herself as a child. My father's clipping. The envelope in my hand. Then she looked at me, and I saw the exact moment she understood why my face had changed. Caleb, she said. I could not answer. The house felt too small for all the years suddenly inside it. I stepped past her into the hall. She followed me to the front porch, but she did not grab me. That was Nora. Even stunned, even hurt, she gave people room to choose. Please don't leave like this, she said. I turned at the bottom step. The night air hit my face. Did you know? No. Her voice broke on the word. I swear to you, no, I believed her. That was the problem. If she had lied, anger would have had a clean place to go. I need time, I know. But don't turn me into part of something I didn't do. That stopped me. She stood under the porch light with her arms wrapped around herself. Not pleading, not defending, just telling the truth. I'm not a debt, she said. And you're not a memorial. I got in my truck because if I stayed, I might have said something cruel enough to last. I drove without opening the envelope. I drove past my shop, past the clinic where Nora and I had first met, past the fire station I still avoided even though it had moved locations years ago. Finally, I parked near the French Broad River and sat there with the windows down. The envelope rested on the passenger seat. I remembered my father's hands. Big, scarred, always warm. He used to tap twice on my bedroom door before coming in, even when I was little. Respect starts where a person sleeps, he would say. He taught me how to sand with the grain, how to apologize without adding the word but, how to check if a man's handshake was trying too hard. The night before he died, we argued. I had wanted him to come to my baseball game. He had promised, then taken an overtime shift because another firefighter's wife was having surgery. I told him he cared more about strangers than his own family. He knelt in front of me in the garage, still in uniform, smelling like soap and smoke. Sometimes strangers are just family you haven't met yet, he said. I told him that was stupid. The next afternoon, he was gone. For 24 years, that was the last real conversation I let myself remember. My phone lit up. Nora. I did not answer. A minute later, she sent one message. I won't push, but I'm here, and I'm angry too. That final sentence did something to me. She had every reason to comfort her father, to explain him, to ask me to be gentle. Instead, she made room for her own anger. She was not standing on anyone's side just because blood told her to. I picked up the envelope. The paper inside was folded twice. My father's handwriting leaned slightly right, the way I remembered from birthday cards and lunchbox notes. Caleb, if you are reading this, it probably means I missed something I promised. I hope it is small. I hope it is not your game tonight. Your mom says I worry too much about disappointing you, but that is because being your dad is the best thing I ever got right. I keep this note in my coat because there are things a man should say before he has to. You are 12, which means you think love is proven by showing up every time. Most days, you are right. But one day you will learn that love is also what teaches a person to show up for someone who has nobody else. I don't want you to worship my work. I don't want you to hate it either. I want you to build a life where your hands make things better than you found them. Use your stubbornness for protection, not punishment. If I miss the game, I owe you ice cream and a terrible apology. I love you more than every siren in this city. The droid. By the time I reached the end, I had stopped trying not to cry. It is a strange thing to receive a father at 36 years old. Not a memory, not a statue, not the town's clean version of him, but a flawed man who knew he could disappoint his son and tried to leave love behind just in case. Nora wore scrubs under a denim jacket, her hair pulled into a knot. She looked tired enough to sit down and proud enough not to ask for the chair. "I'm not here to make you talk," she said. "You came to a woodshop for silence? I came because my dad is scheduled for an aortic valve replacement in 4 weeks, and he's suddenly trying to empty every locked room in his conscience before anesthesia." I leaned against my workbench. "Is he okay?" The question came out before I could stop it. Nora noticed. Her eyes softened, but she did not exploit it. "He's scared. He won't say that, because apparently retired fire chiefs would rather reorganize batteries than admit fear." "That sounds right. I fought with him for 2 hours after you left. I'm sorry. I'm not." She crossed her arms. "He should have told me. He should have told you. He should have told your mother better somehow. I don't know. I'm still sorting through what part of my childhood was protected and what part was hidden." I looked down at the envelope on my bench. I had brought it with me because leaving it at home felt wrong. Nora saw it but did not touch it. "Did you read it?" she asked. "Yes. Did it help?" I laughed once, without humor. It made everything worse in a better way. She nodded like that made perfect sense. Nora ran her hand over the rocking chair arm. "When I was little, I used to dream about gloves. Gloves? Firefighter gloves. Big black ones. In the dream, I'm in a closet and everything is loud. Then hands come through smoke and lift me up. I never saw a face. Just gloves." My throat tightened. "I thought it was just how kids remember trauma," she continued. "Pieces, not whole pictures. Dad told me a firefighter saved me, but I think some part of me knew it was bigger than he said. Every year near August, he got quiet. He would make pancakes even if it was a weekday. He would sit outside after I went to bed. Guilt has routines. So does gratitude." She turned to face me. "Caleb, I don't know what to do with the fact that your father died saving me. I won't pretend I can make it small. But I need you to hear this from me, not from guilt or romance or some story we could tell to make it pretty. I like you because of who you are now, not because of who your father was, not because my dad owes your family, not because fate wrote a script before we met. I wanted to believe her so badly it scared me. And if I can't separate it," I asked, "then tell me that honestly." Her voice shook, but she held my gaze. "Don't punish me slowly. Don't disappear and call it protecting me. I have spent my life around emergencies. I can handle pain. I hate guessing." That was one of the reasons I loved her before I had admitted I loved her. Nora did not beg people to become brave. She simply told the truth and made cowardice look exhausting. "I don't want to lose you," I said. Her eyes filled, but she blinked the tears back. "Then don't make me compete with a ghost." She left after that because she had a shift and because she had said enough. The days that followed were awkward in the way only important days can be. Nora and I did not break up, but something had changed. We texted less, with more care. I asked about her patients. She asked if I had eaten. We did not talk about love, destiny, fathers, or fire. Frank called me once. I let it go to voicemail. His message was simple. "Caleb, this is Frank. I owe you more than one conversation, but I won't force it. Your father was the best man I ever served with for less than 6 minutes. That sounds strange, but it's true. If you want the incident file, the ceremony record, anything, I'll give it to you. If you want me to stay away, I'll respect that. Nora is not responsible for my silence. I listened to it 5 times and hated him less each time, which somehow made me angrier. A few days later, the free clinic called about a loose handrail. I repaired it after closing, and Nora found me outside under the yellow security light with 2 paper cups of coffee balanced in one hand. She handed me a cup. Our fingers touched. Neither of us moved away quickly. "I listened to your dad's voicemail," I said. She watched the parking lot. "He told me he called. I'm thinking about meeting him again." Her breath caught. "For him or for you?" That question was the difference between Nora and everyone who had ever tried to manage my grief. She did not care about the clean-looking choice. She cared about whether it was honest. "For me?" I said. "Maybe for my father, too. I don't know yet." She nodded. "I can be there, or I can stay away. What do you want?" She looked surprised that I asked. "I want to be there," she said. "But not if my presence turns it into a performance. It won't." "You don't know that." "No," I said. "But I know I want you there." Her eyes held mine under the clinic's yellow security light. For the first time since the dinner, something warm passed between us without being immediately swallowed by the past. Frank's surgery was moved up after a fainting spell. Nora told me by text, short and factual. "Surgery Monday. I'll be at mission by 5 a.m. I stared at the message for 10 minutes. I had an excuse not to go. Plenty of them. Frank was not my family. Nora and I were not solid. Hospitals were private. But my father's letter sat on my kitchen table, and one line kept moving through me. "Use your stubbornness for protection, not punishment." At 5:17 Monday morning, I walked into the cardiac waiting area carrying 2 coffees and a paper bag of biscuits from the only place open that early. Nora stood by the window, arms folded, face pale with the kind of fear that makes adults look briefly like children. When she saw me, her mouth trembled. "You came," she said. "I'm trying to stop making that surprise people." She took the coffee. "Thank you." Frank was already in pre-op, so we sat with the untouched biscuits between us. Around us, families whispered, vending machines hummed, nurses moved with calm purpose. "I'm scared," Nora said after a long silence. "I know, I hate it. I know that too." She leaned back, eyes closed. "When I was 8, after the fire, I couldn't sleep unless Dad sat outside my door. He did it for months. I used to think that was proof nothing bad could happen if he was there. Then last week I realized he was probably sitting there because he couldn't sleep either." I reached over and took her hand. She let me. For a while, that was enough. Frank's surgery lasted 6 hours. During the 4th, Nora finally cried. Not dramatically, just silently, looking at the floor, trying to keep the sound inside. I moved closer. and she turned into my shoulder like her body had made the decision before pride could object. I held her carefully, not as repayment, not as fate, as a man holding the woman he loved in a hospital where nothing was guaranteed. When the surgeon came out and said the repair had gone well, Nora's knees buckled. I caught her. She laughed and cried at the same time, then pressed both hands to her face. Later, when Frank was awake and groggy, Nora asked if he wanted to see me. He did. The ICU room was dim, full of soft beeping and plastic tubing. Frank looked smaller in the bed, his authority reduced to the stubbornness in his eyes. "Caleb?" he rasped. "Frank? Still here?" Apparently, his mouth twitched. "Your father would have liked your attitude. I'm not ready for that sentence." "Fair." Nora stood on the other side of the bed, watching us both like she loved us and wanted to shake us. Frank turned his head toward her. "Pumpkin, can I talk to Caleb alone?" Nora's expression tightened. "No secrets? No," he said. "No more secrets. Just a conversation." She looked at me. I nodded. She left the door open behind her. Frank closed his eyes for a moment. "I'm going to say this badly because there's morphine involved. That may improve it." A breath that might have been a laugh moved through him. "I wanted to meet you because of your father," he said. "But I'm glad she found you because of you. I watched you with her in the waiting room before they brought me back. You didn't try to fix what couldn't be fixed. You stayed. That matters." I looked at the monitor because it was easier than looking at him. "I'm still angry," I said. "You should be. I don't know if I forgive you. You don't owe me forgiveness. That helped more than any request would have." He turned his head, eyes clearer now. "But don't let my cowardice steal from her, or from you. The past can explain a wall, but it doesn't get to call it a home." I carried that sentence for days. A week later, I brought Thai food to Nora's apartment and found her nurse practitioner application spread across the coffee table. She had been accepted to interview for a program in Raleigh, but guilt over Frank's recovery had made her hesitate. We worked on her personal statement until the room went quiet. She set the page down. "Do you ever wonder what would have happened if your dad hadn't found me?" "Yes," I said. She went still. I chose the next words carefully. I used to think that question would help me measure what I lost. It doesn't. It only turns your life into a math problem, and I don't want to love someone by subtracting my father. Her eyes filled. I realized what I had said only after the words were in the room. Nora whispered, "Love?" I could have retreated, made a joke, claimed the sentence had slipped. Instead, I remembered hospital coffee, my father's letter, Nora under the porch light saying she was not a debt. "Yes," I said. "Love." She looked down at her hands. "Caleb, I need to ask you something, and I need the real answer." "Okay. If my dad weren't part of this, if there were no fire, no letter, no strange connection, would you still choose me?" The question hurt because it deserved to. I moved the application aside and turned toward her. "I liked you before I knew. I liked the way you argued with insurance forms like they had personally insulted you. I liked how you remembered which kids hated grape medicine. I liked that you brought me coffee at the clinic and pretended it was because you overbought. I liked that you never made kindness look soft. The past changed the room we were standing in, Nora. It did not put you there." A tear slipped down her face. "I love you," I said. "Not as proof of anything. Not as repayment. Not because my father saved you. I love you because when you're near me, I want to become the kind of man who stays without making a prison out of staying." She covered her mouth, laughing through tears. "That is the most carpenter confession I have ever heard. I can sand it down if you want." "No." She moved closer. Leave it rough. When she kissed me, it was gentle and sure. Nothing about it erased the past. That was what made it real. It did not erase anything. It simply gave the present a place to stand. The ceremony was held outside the new Station 7, a building of glass, brick, and polished concrete that looked nothing like the old station in my memory. Families gathered in folding chairs. Firefighters in dress uniforms stood in rows. The flag snapped hard in the wind. I almost left from the parking lot. Nora stood beside me in a navy dress, her hand near mine but not taking it yet. Frank waited near the front with a cane, in his old dress uniform, thinner than before but upright. "You don't have to prove anything," Nora said. "I know, do you?" "Not fully." She smiled sadly. "That counts?" I took her hand. We walked across the lot together. People turned. Some recognized my last name. Some recognized Frank. A few whispered. For once, I did not let other people's memories tell me where I belonged. The chief read the names. When he said Michael Hart, the world narrowed. I expected anger. I expected that old boyhood abandonment to rise up and drag me backward. It came, but behind it came something else. My father's handwriting, Nora's voice, Frank's ruined honesty, the boy at the clinic asking if Spider-Man cried. After the names, Frank stepped to the microphone. Nora stiffened. "Dad?" Frank had not told her. He unfolded a single page. His hands shook, but his voice carried. 24 years ago, in the old Baird Mill fire, Captain Michael Hart saved my daughter's life and mine. The official record says he died in the line of duty. That is true, but not complete. The complete truth is that I lived many years with gratitude. I did not know how to honor, and guilt I did not know how to confess. A murmur moved through the crowd. My chest tightened. Frank looked at me, not with apology alone, but with accountability. "His son is here today," he continued. "Caleb Hart owes this department nothing. His family owed us nothing. We owed them remembrance that did not turn a man into a statue and did not erase the cost of his absence at home. I failed to speak sooner. Today I want the record, and my own daughter, and Caleb, to have the whole truth." Nora's hand gripped mine. Frank paused, breathing carefully. Michael Hart's last act gave me years with my child. It gave my child a life she made worthy not by being saved, but by choosing every day to serve others. And it left a son who became a builder, a restorer, a man who makes damaged things useful without pretending they were never broken. I could not see clearly. Then Frank did the thing I never saw coming. He stepped away from the microphone, turned toward me, and saluted. Not the crowd, not the department. Me. Every firefighter in uniform followed. 100 hands rose. For a second I was 12 years old again, furious in a wrinkled dress shirt, waiting for my father to come home. Then Nora leaned into my side, alive and warm, and I was 36, holding a wooden box with my father's letter inside. I did not forgive everything in that moment. Life is not that neat. But something unclenched. When the crowd thinned, Frank stood near the memorial wall. Nora and I walked over. He looked exhausted. "Was that too much?" "Yes," I said. His face fell. I stepped closer. "And thank you." His eyes closed briefly. I opened the walnut box and removed the letter. Not to give it away, to let it breathe in the same air as his name on the wall. "My father wrote that love is showing up for someone who has nobody else," I said. I used to hate that. I thought it meant he chose strangers over me. I think I understand it differently now. Nora looked at me, tears on her cheeks. I turned to her. "You asked me if I would choose you without the fire," I said. "I can't remove the fire from our story. I can't pretend it didn't shape us. but I can choose what it means from here." Her lips parted. "I choose you," I said. "Not because my dad saved you, not because your dad confessed, not because the past pushed us into the same room. I choose you because you are Nora, and I love you, and every future I can imagine with peace in it has you standing somewhere nearby, probably telling me I'm holding the instructions wrong." She laughed through a sob. "You do hold instructions wrong." I know. She took my face in her hands, right there beside the memorial wall, with firefighters and families and the past all around us. "I choose you too," she said. "Not your pain. Not your father's sacrifice. You." When she kissed me, the applause started softly, then grew. Frank pretended to cough into his hand. I saw him wipe his eyes anyway. A week before the move, Nora stopped by the shop while I was packing clamps into crates. She leaned against the doorway, watching me struggle with a roll of tape stuck to my sleeve. "My dad wants to meet you," she said. I froze, then looked up. She was smiling. "Very funny." "He does. He says you promised to teach him how to use that fancy Japanese saw. He is not touching that saw. He said you'd say that." I walked over, peeled the tape from my sleeve, and pulled her gently into my arms. The first time she had said those words, they had opened a door to smoke, silence, guilt, and a past I thought I understood. This time, they opened a door to an old man wanting to learn a new skill, a woman laughing in my workshop, and a future that did not need to be simple to be good. "I'll meet him," I said. Nora tilted her head. "You sure?" I kissed her forehead. "I'm learning to show up." She rested her cheek against my chest. Outside, late sunlight moved across the shop floor, catching sawdust in the air until it looked almost like sparks, but softer. Nothing burning, nothing lost. Just small, bright pieces floating through a room we were still building. So if you have ever been afraid that the past has too much power over your future, remember this. Truth may hurt when it finally opens the door, but silence charges interest for years. Love does not erase what happened. It gives you someone brave enough to stand beside you while you decide what it will mean. If this story touched you, like, subscribe, and tell me in the comments. Would you forgive a hidden truth if it led you back to love? Or would the silence be too much to overcome?